you see her? Well, good morning. I've thought of a way to pass the time while I wait for you all to gather rather than staring awkwardly at you. Oh, you beautiful doll, you great big beautiful doll. Let me put my arms around you. I could never live without you. Oh, you beautiful doll, you great big beautiful doll. If you ever leave me, how my heart will ache. I want to hold you, but I fear you'd break. Oh, 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 you beautiful doll. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Good morning, Kathy. Good morning, Stephen. I think we'll have another round of that and then we'll start. We'll see if anyone's here. Well, there is here. There is a Kathy and a Stephen here. Oh, you beautiful doll, you great big beautiful doll. Let me put my arms around you. I could never live without you. Oh, you beautiful doll, you great big beautiful doll. If you ever leave me, how my heart will ache. I want to hold you, but I fear you'd break. Oh, 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 you beautiful doll. Cha-cha-cha. Right. And you'll get another round of that if I don't get some really good comments and questions at the end. No, only joking. Old MacDonald next week, if we have a next week. Morning, Claire. Nice to see you. Right. Morning, Brian. Brian, you're going to have to scroll back and watch this from the beginning once it's finished. You've missed some awesome singing. We're back to the musicals. Gosh, it'll be a long time before we're allowed back in Willow House. But, not soft. My camera woman is here. I've been having nightmares about this, literally. I was dreaming last night. And I couldn't find the thing where I reversed the picture. And I was going, I can't do it. I can't do it. Oh. Hello, Stevie. She's here. Hiya, Edith. Hiya. Hello, Roka. Gosh, I really, really, really miss your fresh air. I've been thinking about that. I think in a few weeks' time I'm going to come and meet my best mate still up in Roka. Well, she lives in Seaburn Dean, you know. Well, I think we're going to go and do some social distancing in a few weeks. It's how to go to the toilet's the thing. We'll work something out. I was just thinking, Edith, you know Karen Davison lives on your street. My children went to her brownies. I was just thinking about that. Oh, yes, you can. You mean pantomime style, Kathy? Or were you talking about the toilet? This is funny, this delayed comment thing. Oh, no, you can't. We'll see. Yeah, I was thinking about how my children went to Karen's brownies just round the back of you, Edith, because we sold our house. My middle daughter was at brownies, and somebody popped into view, and I thought, oh, they'll be gone by the time I get back from dropping her off. And then they were still there when it was time to pick her up, so I went to pick her up from Karen Davison's brownies at Roka Methodist. And she had these big purple Crocs on. She was really cute when she was 7, was Joanna. And I came back from picking her up and they were still there. And then we got a cash offer. So we moved to Robert Town a few weeks later and that was it. Yeah, behind you too, Stephen. That makes us sound like a pantomime horse. Morning, Mavis. Right, enough of this foolishness and these memories of Roka. And we shall get on and we shall have a really good story, hopefully. It's not a particularly long story, but the stuff in it can lead to so much conversation. Morning, Graham. The stuff in it can lead to so much conversation that if you really want to help me out... Hello, dog. If you really want to help me out and to really get the most out of this, while I'm actually telling the story, most of you are familiar with the question series at the end, but that's completely irrelevant anyway. They're just prompts. So anything you think of while I'm telling this story... If you get ready to type it in at the end so we can have some discussion, because it's a short story, but the discussion can be absolutely phenomenal with this one. So I'm going to turn you round. I'll give you to my camera woman. She's very good. Where are we? Let's hope this dream doesn't come true. How do I turn you round? Help. There it is. Yay. Right. Phew. Nightmare didn't come true. Right, so we'll just calm our hearts and minds of all that foolishness. So God, I just pray that from this story that it's just so hard to understand, that we here in Hartshead, Hightown, Robertown and Scholes, Clare and Cleethorpes and Edith in Roker, and anyone else that watches this, us here today in the year 2020, just pray we're going to take something good out of it, however you bring that across. Because you're clever like that, God, and you're big. In your name, amen. Right, I'm going to need some focusing in a minute. Some small bits. So, this is the story of Abraham, the father of the great family. Now, Abraham and his wife Sarah travelled from Ur all the way to Haran and then into a new land. And they didn't know it at the time, but they found that God was there everywhere they went. So when they got to the new land, Abraham went up a hill at Shechem and he found that God was there. And then they went to a place called Bethel and God was there. And then finally they pitched their tents at Hebron and God was there. Now, Abraham had been promised by God that Sarah would be the mother and he would be the father of a great family. They would number as many as the stars in the sky, and the grains of sand in the desert, and the dust in the earth. But Abraham and Sarah had no children. Then one day, 3 strangers came up out of the desert. And they said that Sarah was going to have a baby. Now Abraham and Sarah laughed because Sarah was just too old and Abraham was very old too. But she did have that baby and they named him Laughter. Then Isaac grew, and when he was a boy, an angel of the Lord appeared to Abraham and said, "You are to take your son, whom you love, your son Isaac, and go to the mountain of Moriah. And when you get there, you're to offer him as a burnt sacrifice to the Lord." So, Abraham took his son Isaac, who he loved, and he cut some wood, a bundle of wood, some sticks, the burnt offering. He took the wood and Isaac and 2 helpers, and they set off for the land of Moriah. It was a long journey, but on the 3rd day they could see the mountain. Then Abraham said to his helpers, "You stay there," and he and Isaac went on together alone. Now, Isaac carried the wood, and Abraham brought the bowl of fire and the knife. Oops. And when they got near, Isaac said to him, "But Dad, where's the lamb? We need a lamb for this sacrifice." And Abraham said, "Don't worry, God will provide." And then they got to the place where they made sacrifices, and Abraham tied his son Isaac, who he loved, up, and he took the knife. But then God said, "No, you don't need to do this, stop." And then Abraham looked around, and there was a ram caught in some bushes. So God had provided the ram for the sacrifice. So Abraham untied Isaac and they headed back off down the mountain on the way home. And God said, Abraham, I'm going to make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and the grains of sand in the desert. But more than that, you've been obedient. So from you I'm going to make a great blessing because you've been so obedient to me. And then, after a few more years, Abraham's wife Sarah was so old and full of years that she died. And Abraham and Isaac buried her in a cave under the oaks of Mamre. And then Abraham found a wife for Isaac called Rebekah. And then Abraham was full of years too, and he died, and they buried him next to Sarah under the trees. And Rebekah and Isaac had twins called Esau and Jacob, and so the great family grew. Thank you. Turn you back round. So, crash. I wonder what you liked best about this story. Can you see it there? Let's see if anyone's been commenting. Hello, Catherine. Nice to see you. Catherine trained with me. Catherine, I really like Catherine. Yes, I like so old and full of years as well, Catherine. In fact, I've started to use it about people. I was talking to somebody recently about somebody called Rose that had died. And they went, not the Rose from your estate, who's only about 50, possibly. I said, no, don't worry. It's very sad, and we need to pray for the family. Daughter's very sad, but it was a Rose that was full of years. And it just sums it up. It's a gentle way. It's a way of... It kind of makes those years seem like a privilege to have. I think our society tends to stigmatise elderliness sometimes. Whereas full of years makes it sound like, full of GCSEs or full of A-levels, but even better than that because you learn more in years. So that's what I think. You might disagree. Morning, Anne. Nice to see you. We've been doing the story of Abraham. So he went from his land, found his new land, and God was there. His descendants were as many as the stars in the sky and the grains of sand in the desert. And they told him he was going to have a baby, and he did. But then God told him to sacrifice his baby when he was a boy. So there's the knife. We see the knife? Yeah. But then God provided a ram instead, so Isaac was spared. So is there anything anybody liked about this story? Maybe I should... Hello, Jane. Maybe I should ask a different question, because people don't seem to be liking much about it, unless you're just all making coffee. Hello, dog. I wonder if there's anything that we could take out of this story and still have all the story that we need. Now, personally, I would get rid of this bit. But then, how would Abraham get his great blessing? I don't know. I wonder. Kathy says, how must he have felt to be asked to sacrifice the longed-for and promised son? Yeah. How must he have felt? Yeah. Thank goodness Abraham wasn't quick off the mark. Yeah. No. I have a feeling a bit like our Eucharists, which are kind of a new covenant version of a sacrifice, aren't they, when our priests say them. There's a set liturgy, isn't there? It probably wasn't a fast process tying somebody up, and let's hope not. Oh dear. Oh, now we're into how quickly we sacrifice humans. Hi Anne, nice to see you. We're talking about Abraham being asked to sacrifice Isaac. I don't know if you know the story, you might do. Abraham was asked to sacrifice his son Isaac that had been promised for a long time. And then God let him off at the last minute and provided a ram instead. Hello, Jane. Yeah, I don't know how he must have felt. Now, it's not as horrific. No, it is as horrific. That's the wrong word. But it's not as unusual. That would be a good word, maybe, as it would seem to us, because back in that culture, see, there wasn't the Jewish religion yet, was there, where human sacrifice was appalling. Abraham was from a different religion, and he was the first Jewish person, so he would have been aware of child sacrifices, is what I'm trying to say. It wouldn't have been a complete unknown thing. It's just, yeah, he'd been promised this baby, and the flippin' strangers had come out the desert, and Sarah had been 90 when he was born. Is that right? Yes, I don't know how he must have felt when he was asked to sacrifice him. Bit of a stretch of faith, isn't it? What must Isaac have thought when he was tied up and placed on the altar? Yeah. I sometimes think, what must Isaac have felt when he was untied and he was expected to walk back down the mountain with his dad and the 2 helpers and the donkey? I forgot to mention the donkey, didn't I? A donkey, 2 helpers, and his dad, and him. And his dad's just tied him up and then untied him So, gosh, 90, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how Isaac must have felt. It blows your mind a bit, doesn't it? And yet God says that this obedience was important and is a great blessing. I don't understand that, I have to say. I don't understand it. If I did, I would be the cleverest person on earth, I think. Well, and Stephen likes the 3 strangers, yeah. I believe this is a famous painting. When I butterfingers this morning. When I did this in person at one of the Bible studies we used to do. I have done this story once. People recognise this as a famous painting, so fill me in again. But yeah, the 3 strangers coming out of the desert and just appearing, and with such news, and they're like, what? Yeah. And the strangers who knew everything about them as well. Sarah's going to have a baby. Did they know? Did the strangers know how long they'd been waiting? Dad, would you really have done it? Do you think they'll have had a really visceral, honest, open conversation about it on the way back down? Or would they have done like I often do when I've done something that my children don't like, where you brush around it or get defensive, like, oh, God asked me to do it. Never mind, moving on. Tidy your room, tidy your tent when we get back. Well, parents quite often find it quite hard to have proper, decent, open and honest conversations with their children. Would Isaac have said, Dad, would you really have done it? Or would he have just, depends how old he is, would he have been a bit moody or traumatized, more likely completely traumatised, yeah. Ruble, I'm going to have to look at that comment afterwards, Stephen. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that. I'm going to Google it afterwards and find that painting. I just remember I was telling my story and this really caught people's eye and they started talking about where the painting had come from, and I can't remember. It's nice. It's faded a bit now. It's a year old. On my... I said Mod Podge, shouldn't I? Mod Podge. I like my tumble dryer dust. This was an empty bottle the first time I told the story, but now I have a tumble dryer. I'm very blessed. Dust was easy to get hold of. Fluff. Nice clean dust. I can stay there. I'm going to dare to ask this question. I wonder if there's a bit of the story you particularly disliked. And that's off the beaten track. Was it written at a time when people needed reminding of God's faithfulness, perhaps? Yeah. When I first heard this story, I was 11. I was 12. Trying to remember, get it right. I was at Whitburn Comprehensive School, the old building, along the coast from Edith. We did the life of Jesus in the first year, but I remember I knew nothing about the Old Testament at all because I was never taken to church or anything like that when I was a child. I knew a lot about Jesus from infant school. Knew nothing about the Old Testament, and suddenly we were presented with this story where there was this great family, this man, and we did the story of Abraham in detail, and suddenly we get to the bit where he's asked to sacrifice him, and we were all like, it was new to us. Only one or two would have heard of it, the ones that had been taken to Sunday school. So we were like, what? Oh, that's ridiculous, sir. Sir, why would they do that? But if you take the story and you don't overthink it, if you just go bing, 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 bing and tell it, it's like, wow, how cool. God saved him. Right, so yeah. So I suppose God was faithful. My RE teacher put it across like but Abraham was getting obsessed with Isaac. He loved him more than he loved God. There's another question. How many of us love our children more than we love God? I was asked to tie up Kirsty, take her up a hill by God. I can't see myself doing that. I have to be brutally honest. Obviously no great blessing coming from my family. It's like, what? I know it is countercultural now, isn't it? But just no. Yeah. Ooh, that's made me shiver. But yeah, maybe people needed reminding of God's faithfulness, and they would take the end of the story rather than focus on the middle. Because God did make the family of Abraham as big as this. I wonder if there's a part of the story that you identify with today, that you feel you're in. I like the bit where God's everywhere. But then if God's everywhere, why would he do that? Edith, I'm with you. I've never really understood this sacrifice malarkey either. Did God really want all these sheep, all these rams? Now I know people that have studied theology can give us a neat, wrapped up version of why they used to sacrifice animals. And then Jesus came, but still, when you think about it, it's like the God I know wanting us to just slash lambs' throats, and especially when it came to a human being. But he didn't really want the human being, did he? It was a test. But yeah, Sarah was still alive at this point, because last week she watched them go off to Mount Moriah and come back again. I don't think Sarah actually knew what was going on, except maybe it said last week it was good to have them back when they came back. It's whether Isaac told her, do you know what my dad just did? My children certainly would if I've ever lost it with them and gone, too much to say when Matthew comes home from work. Dad, you know what she did? You know what she said to me? There was one time I told one of them to PISS off. And oh dear me, I heard it from Matthew about that one. So I think if I'd tried to tie Kirsty up and been going to kill her, I think that might have been a bit of a serious offence, yes, so they might have told their dad. I don't know what Sarah would have thought. I think by this point, after what Sarah had been through, she might have just been like this. I don't know. What did Abraham think? Abraham is always very obedient, isn't he? Last week we see him just going, oh, all right then, I'll take a second wife. Unless you just thought, I like that very young slave girl when you're nearly 90, love. I don't know. But last week he obeyed Sarah straight away and took the slave girl. This week we see him just obeying God and sacrificing his son, or being prepared to, getting as far as holding the knife. Abraham seems a bit of a, okay then, character in some ways. Yeah. Did God really want all of this, Edith? I just don't know. I've been listening to lots of podcasts recently. ways to interpret the Bible and things, and I found it quite helpful. Anyone who wants to know, ask me personally. I won't put it on the official church page because I'm not speaking for the church, but it's really hard. Oh, Kathy. Did he have more sons? Gosh, what a goer Abraham was. He was 100 when Isaac was born. Oh. What do we take from this story? I take from this story that God is very difficult to understand, and that sometimes in the Old Testament especially, God does stuff that's completely like, whoa. But that means I need to do some work to understand the true heart of God, as seen in the New Testament. The God that Abraham loved, because he was always there. Abraham loved enough to take his son. What do other people take from this story? Kathy, I'm going to go and look that up. I couldn't watch the Lamb or Ram either, Mavis. But then we're not used to it, are we? They'd have seen things like that all the time. Things aren't always what they seem, Kathy says, and he will look after us even if we don't understand what is happening at the time. Have faith and listen. I like that. Let's say it again. Things aren't always what they seem, and he will look after us even if we don't understand what is happening at the time. Have faith and listen. I like that. I'm going to think about that. Yeah. I tend to be quite a progressive Christian these days. I look at the Bible and I see it as God-breathed and inspired. But then I accept that people wrote it where they were at the time. And I haven't got to quite what I think about that yet. I'm thinking, but yeah, there's certainly a lot of faith shown here. Covenant. Yeah, covenant as in an agreement between two parties. An agreement between God and between Abraham and his people. They're God's people, all these people. And now we're grafted in. A covenant can be a painful thing to make, an agreement. Catherine, you think it's all about faith? Yeah, I think that's the heart of it. Maybe Abraham took him off up the hill. Jane says, God provided the sacrifice and the ram just like he provided Jesus as a sacrifice. Yeah. Morning, Maggie. Yeah, so it's mirrored, isn't it? He asked Abraham to sacrifice his son, and then God's son died. Like a big mirror. Maggie, you'll be able to scroll back. This will be saved if you want to watch it. Kathy? Sometimes the things we wish for are not the things we need. What we need is what we're given. Even the desert bears a seed. Yes, it does. If you watch David Attenborough and other things, there's things growing in the desert. Sometimes the things we wish for are not the things we need. Yep. Morning, Juliana. Nice to see you. How's it hanging? Congratulations on getting married. Sometimes the things we wish for are not the things we need. What we need is what we're given. Even the desert bears a seed. Yeah. I had a long waffle at the beginning to Edith, who was watching in Roker at the beginning, about how I sold my house there very quickly before the sign had even gone up, while my daughter was at Karen's Brownies round the corner in Sunderland. That's not what I wanted. I didn't want to leave my friends. I wouldn't have, it wasn't as big a sacrifice as sacrificing one of my kids. That'd be ridiculous to think, but it wasn't what I wanted. I moved to Yorkshire, and to be fair, it's not really like a desert here, is it? So I can't say the desert bore a seed. It was a bit of a desert at first, though, in terms of I had a friend in Rochdale, and some people were nice to me because they'd known my granddad. I'd met Jane before, and Mary from Robert Town, but just to say hello to. So it was a bit of a desert at first, friends-wise, but look, I'm Really enjoyed meeting you people. It was what I needed. I'm quite happy now, so I've grown. So yeah, the desert bore a seed. Nice to see you, Juliana. Juliana, this video will be saved if you want to watch it from beginning to end. It's full of foolishness at the beginning, and then a really meaty story. There's some brilliant comments from you guys. So, I think we'll start wrapping it up. Has anyone got anything else to say? I haven't missed anything, have I? Apologise if so. Thank you, Kathy. I'm glad I came as well. I came to your folk evening. That first day, I still felt very, very new. Your folk evening's in November or December, isn't it, at the community centre? But so I've been here a year because I came at the beginning of January. No, end of January, but I still felt very, very new. But Jane, who knew me vaguely, came across and said hello. I remember that. I agree. Jane Lee, I appreciated that. I brought a child. I've always liked you, Kathy. That's good. Maggie. Met you, Maggie, in the fruit shop. The veg shop. Jane, I think you came to our church once at Robert Town when I was still there because you needed your DBS signing. Was that you? If not, I got to know you at Murfield. That's been good. Thank you, Catherine. Catherine, have you got anything online? Catherine trained with me. If you've done anything online, I want to see yours as well because you were really good at it. You were a proper grown-up godly play practitioner. So. And if it's great, it's because I've got people that are speaking up and saying stuff. People that like to think and that are happy to indulge my waffling, so that's good. So, I'm going to wrap this up in prayer. But first of all, we're going to put away the cave where they were buried, the ram that God provided for the sacrifice instead of Isaac, the rope and the knife where Abraham tied up Isaac and was prepared to sacrifice him, the bowl of fire ready that would have burned the ram, the sticks that Abraham cut, the 3 strangers who came out of the desert. Catherine, yes you were. We had some lovely chats that few days. Grew as a person during that. The dust and the grains of sand in the desert and the stars in the sky that are as many as Abraham and Sarah's great family. And God being there. God being everywhere. We'll roll it up for next time. For some other unsuspecting audience. Or for you guys again in a year or two when we've had time for life to move us on and think of more. These stories work with the same people over and again. Yeah. Funny noise. So we're going to pray. God, this story is really hard, but I thank you for it anyway. It's been hard to tell it. It's been hard to think what to say, but I thank you for that anyway. I thank you for the people who joined in and had such thoughts. I thank you for what you've put in these awesome, awesome people who are thinking about this because of thoughts you've given them, brains you've given them, the lives they've led, the things they've decided to do themselves that have grown them. Thank you for our wonderful community we have, Lord, of people near and far now, people joining in online that are prepared to think about you. Let's pray you'll really bless us all, please God, as we carry on, and that we'll then be a blessing to other people. Amen. So thank you everybody, it's been absolutely fab this morning. I don't know what we're going to do with story time. Might carry on a Saturday morning for now and see how it goes. I must admit I had an open mind, but then after today, I've had such good responses I'm tempted to give it another go next Saturday, so we'll see. I'll let you know. No, thank you. No, thank you, Jane. It's you guys that are making this work, so thank you. Just have a really good weekend. I'll see you tonight for night prayer at 9. if people would like to join me for that. And then tomorrow we've got Jane leading the morning service, which will be fab at 9:30 tomorrow morning, because Jane's brilliant. Thank you, Mavis. And then we'll have Stephen's hymns, yes, at 11. I love that. And then BCP Common Prayer, our weekly trip back, which is super spiritual and relevant today at 7 o'clock tomorrow. Too much to take in. Just remember evening prayer for now, or Jane at 9:30 tomorrow. Bye. Wrap it warm, Edith, and enjoy that sunshine in a safe, distanced way. I might come and give you a shout when I'm up from about 5 metres away, we'll see. Eventually. Take care all. Look forward to seeing you in person. Bye.